Hi all, welcome to the channel, welcome to the workshop. It's Monday, so you know that means we have the Mallard. Now, as you can see, I've got the tender here. We're basically just working more on the tender, adding a few more details to it. I'm going to try and do two issues for you today, but I also figured I'd bring something else up to the workbench, something you haven't seen since the very, very beginning, the box. Now, can you believe this box was full when I started, and now we have that left. So not a great deal left to do it all. As I say, I'm going to try and do two for you today, which is 122 and 123. Now, it looks to be just a load of details for the tender. There looks to be possibly a very small addition to the main body chassis. So we'll check those out as well. And then in issue 124, there is actually a little bit of painting. And that's actually going to be a bit of colour going on the tender. So we're very, very close to putting all the details on there and actually getting it ready for paint and decals. So for now, let's get into it. Let's get building.
Welcome to the workshop, tools in the light, screws and glue, they're holding it tight. Piece by piece, it's a builder's delight, making dreams in the still of the night. Let's get into it, let's get building now. Put it all together, I'll show you how. Screw by screw and a little glue too. Welcome to the workshop, it's waiting for you.
Right, so issue 122 of the Mallard, and I'll give you a look through 123 as well, and then you can see what we're doing fully. But as you can see, we've only got a small selection of parts, and it is pretty much just adding details. And that's what we end up with at the end of it. Then we've got the Mallard story and Britain's Airways. And then in 123, again, similar sort of parts, similar sort of thing to do. And you'll notice we're actually doing a bit of work on the main chassis as well. So these obviously have been telling us to take it all apart. So we've got the chassis ready for painting. Obviously, you know, most of that's already done anyway. We've also got Britain's Airways, this one, and ending with Great Road Journeys. Right, so I've actually gathered a few of the parts that are listed that we're going to need over the next couple of issues. So we've got some 0.7mm wire. We've got the little knobs for the tender detailing. We've got various brackets and things, handles. We've got a couple of sub-assemblies that we've already created a couple of weeks ago. We have this one from issue 53. Now, I should have two of these. However, I cannot find the other one. So I seem to have gotten lost somewhere. Basically, just needs this lamp bracket. So what I'll probably end up doing is probably just creating one, because it's only really sort of an L shape. So I'm sure I can knock something up that will look a bit like it. So not too worried about that. That's fine. My guess is that I hadn't realised that was on there and I've thrown the sprue away, because I believe we've already used this and this from the other sprue, and obviously there are spares on this one, but we do need two of those. So that's my guess, that I managed to not realise that was a thing and I've thrown this sprue away. But in issue 122 and 123, we get the exact same thing. So we basically just need to treat them exactly the same. And the first thing I'm going to be doing is a bit of drilling. So if I just show you on this one first, we basically need a 0.6 and a 0.8mm drill. Now this is a 0.6, but we need 0.6 drill in here, and likewise in here, and then the other items on here, this one, and this one, needs a 0.8mm drill. So I'm going to get all those drilled out, including this sprue as well, and then I'll show you what that looks like. Right, so that's the 0.6 that I've drilled in there, and the same on these two parts as well. Gone in about 3mm, that's what the requirement was, but my guess is probably just going to be a bit of wire going in there, so it's not going to be too critical. I've now switched over to my 0.8mm, and I'm just going to reiterate that it's going to be this one, and this one, and that's going to be an all the way through drill. So I'll just grab my sacrificial bit of wood, and then I'll get these drilled out, and then I'll show you what they look like too. Right, and with those holes drilled, I'm just going to take these two parts, and they are the watercock brackets, I believe. And they're going to be sitting just next to these two handles. We've got two holes there in the end of the chassis there, or end of the tender body. And I think the easiest way to do this is probably just to have it sat on its end like so. Grab one of a pair of tweezers, and we'll just get it sat in place. Now it might need a little bit of trimming just so it sits next to this piece nicely. This one is obviously going to be fine, although I think that hole is a little bit tight. So just use my round file and just open up that hole ever so slightly. I'm going to try this one for fit. Right, now that one's fitting in absolutely perfectly. And then this one, as I said, I'm just going to file off a small amount of it. Just enough, hopefully, so that it will sit next to this other bracket. I'm just going to use some glue to hold that in. Try and keep it so that it is straight and level. We now need these watercock handles, and we need to cut them so that there's 0.75mm still protruding. Now the idea is that these will go into the top of these two items, and then 0.7mm wire will go down the rest of the way. Now, I don't know if you remember from a few weeks ago when I did these, I actually did it in a different way round. I put the 0.7mm wire through first and then put the handles on top. And I'm going to do the exact same thing for these ones. So this will go through here. I might need a bit more glue on that. That doesn't seem too solid at the moment. So let's do this one first. So 0.7mm wire goes all the way through here. And it will go down into that lower section there. Now it may or may not come through the bottom. Depends how well lined up it is, but it doesn't really matter. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to bring it up ever so slightly and then cut it off flush like that. Now because I brought it up ever so slightly, it means I can push it back down into that hole. And then we can take one of our handles, and I am going to cut it off fairly close, and it's probably not 0.75, but it's probably one. Right, so just using a pair of pliers here, just because I get a better grip on it. And put some glue on it, just going to wiggle it in. And that will hold that in place as well as the pipe. I'm going to do the exact same thing for this side. Let me get that one pushed in as well. And just for an extra peace of mind, we'll just dab some glue just on the edge here. Now ensure that those pipes are fully glued in. Now I'll just check for anything that's coming through the bottom here. Now there's a very tiny amount there, so we'll just get that clipped off. Right, so now we have these lamp irons, well, only one in my case, but just trim it off the back and just going to take it down so it's flush, like so. And they're quite simply just going to glue onto the sidewall of the tender body. And I'm just trying to look if there's a mark or anything. I can't see one. So I am just going to do a little bit of guesswork based on the picture, which looks like it'll go approximately there. So just down from this curved section here, and almost in line with that piece there. In fact, maybe ever so slightly higher. I think what I'm just going to do is just going to put some glue on the back of it, drop it in place, and I think it's going to go about there. Right, we now need to take a 1.3mm drill and pretty much drill every hole that's left on here, with the exception of these three, I believe. And these are for the little knobs we've got here, so all the handrail knobs. So just going to open up these holes here. Right, so that's the last one done of those. And it's basically going to be a case of take two of the handrail knobs, a piece of 0.7mm wire, and basically thread them on and get them glued into the holes. And then we trim the wire. So I'll show you how I plan on doing one. And then we'll do the rest. One rail on. I think I did the same actually, this technique with the body. So in theory, you've probably seen this technique already. So I'm just going to stand that on its end. I'll do this one here first of all to show you. And it's just going to be a case of put the knobs in like so, get those glued in, and then trim the ends of the wire there. So that's those two glued in. Just going to put a little tiny bit of glue on the end of this wire and just pull it back a little bit. Bit of glue on that one, and we'll just cut this off flush like so. Now I'm going to do that for the other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 knobs and the rails. Right, so as you can see, we've got the handles now all fitted to there, like so. You'll also notice that I've now fitted these two items as well. We did just have to open up the holes that were there and put these parts in. Now these were parts from issue 53, it was. They were just the last two parts on a sprue, and they just have a single peg each, and they go into those holes. And that's what that's looking like, and that's all there is to do in that stage. So we move on to the next stage. Now, obviously, we've got all the same parts, so we've prepared them in the same way. We do have a choice right now, and the choice is whether we're going to use the little streamlining cover or not. That will go from here to the cab. Now, I haven't actually decided, and I don't know at the minute. Now, if we don't have it, we need to take this strip and put it on top here. If we are going to use the weather stripping, then we leave this off. So at the minute, what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave this off for the moment. I may or may not decide in the next week or so what I'm going to do, but for now, I'm going to leave this off, but otherwise that would be bent over the top there. Right. For the 4 remaining holes that we have in here, we need 1.1mm drill, and we're just going to open up those as well. And we're going to take the little lamp irons, so 2 from that one and 2 from this one, and they're going to go into those 4 holes we've just opened up. And all I'm going to do is just dip the bracket into a little bit of glue, try and ensure that it is straight, and have it popped in like that. And 4th one just going in there. Again, let's try and ensure that they all look fairly straight. Now, I do believe that's the last thing to do on the tender for this part. So I'm just going to put that to one side. And we now need to bring over our chassis. Now, using a 1.4mm drill bit, I've just drilled through this hole here, just opening it up. I'm just using my thinner drill handle here, and it means we can go all the way through like so. So we've got both of those holes drilled. I'm going to do the exact same thing for this side, and just use the file to clean them up a little bit, like so. Right, and those holes that we've just drilled are going to be for these 2 parts, which we have obviously 2 sets of, and they are the anti-vacuum pipes. So we're just going to cut that off like so. And if I turn the chassis on its side, obviously be careful of the running gear, etc. that's on here now. Obviously, if you've not painted yours, then you've been told to take all of your running gear off by this point, so it may or may not be on for you. But this is just going to go in there like so, and we're going to have another one in this end like so. I'm going to do the exact same thing for the other side. So all I'm going to do is pop that in there like that, and then I'm going to grab a piece of wire, dip it in some glue, and I'll run some glue around the inside of that one. So I'm just going to use my tweezers to hold it in place. And that's the first one glued in. Now, I've got a little bit more access on this one, so I've just dipped this one in glue. So I can just hold that in place for a second with the tweezers. So that's the second one in place, and just going to flip it over now and do the exact same thing for the other side. And then our last one just goes in here. Again, I've just dipped that one in glue. Right, next thing we need to do, we actually need to flip this over on its top there. Now you notice we've got 4 holes just here in these cylinder blocks here. Again, we need the 1.4mm drill, and we need to open up these as well. Right, so with those holes drilled out, we now need to turn our attention to these parts, and these are the drain cocks. Now it looks like they both face the exact same direction, which is towards the front of the engine. And they're just going to sit in those holes there, like so. So just using the first one at the minute, just do a bit of a test fit on each of these. So I'll just get these glued in. And just keep them straight with the cylinder there. Right, so that's the last one just going in there. So just going to let that glue set. Now we do have these little sub-assemblies that we created last week or week before. Now what we need to do with those is put them behind these items we've just put in. Now I don't know how clear this is going to be on camera, but basically they need to sit with this piece up behind here, and these two folded sections basically need to sit where those stopcocks or drain cocks come out. So they sort of sit a little bit like that. So might need to trim a little bit off the end of that one until such point as we get a good fit in there. Right, so that's fitting there pretty much perfectly now, as you can see. So just need to glue that in place. So that's one glued in just there. I'm going to flip it over, do the exact same thing for the other side. Right, so now that one is in place, and that is actually all there is to do in that stage. So very little to do. We were pretty much told most of this stage was disassemble what we've got here for the chassis, etc., and the running gear. But what I need to do is actually just go around the chassis and just tidy up a couple of little bits and pieces and paint in some of these black parts. Now, one thing I did notice when trying to put the body back on, there is actually a couple of pieces here that are fouling. So I'm going to have to cut those off and actually file them down and actually make sure that these all fit in properly again, including these two parts that are poking out here and here. So that needs to be tidied up, and obviously we'll then need painting as well. Obviously not the running gear. Running gear doesn't need to be painted, which is obviously a bit of a bonus. But that piece that comes out of there does need to be cut off because it does foul. And same with this one here. Right, so I'm just going to give you a quick sneak peek at what's in 124 that's coming next week. As you can see, we do have some buffer details. We've got the buffers and springs, etc. And we are adding those onto the tender. So we're moving back to put in a few more details on the tender, including a couple of little details here. Now we've got the wheels to paint for the main chassis. Obviously that's already been done. So that's painting the wheels in red. Now, as you can see, they've pretty much given us all the steps in one page, whereas the body and tender, etc., they gave us it in about 5 different stages, as opposed to a page. But as you can see, we've got the tender there painted it in primer. Then we've got the red of the buffer detail going on. Got a couple of little bits being painted there, masking up that red buffer detail, and then adding blue. So by the end of it, we'll have a blue tender. Now, that probably won't happen next week, but we shall see. If I get a chance to potentially do a little bit during the week, then maybe. But we shall see. But if it doesn't happen for next week, it'll happen hopefully for the week after. Because, as I said, we are getting very, very close to the end of this one now. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please remember to hit the like button below and give us a massive thumbs up. So, that's progressed a little bit further today. Obviously, we've added a little bit more detail to that. And as I've shown you, next week, there'll be a few more details going on there, including potentially paint, or it'll certainly be ready for paint. So that is pretty exciting. I still don't know what I'm going to do whether I use that little shroud or not to cover the engine. I'm starting to think probably not. So I will probably put that little rivet detail on the top there. I do actually need to do a little bit of filling around here, just to make sure that streamlining that's there at the minute does mold into the sides of the body. So I'll try and get that done during the week, ready for next week. And obviously we have the main chassis here. Now, obviously that is painted. Now, at a point in time where we should be at, it shouldn't be. But as you can see, we've actually just had the instruction, or will have next week, the instruction for painting these wheels. But again, it made sense because I had the whole lot to combine a lot of things together and paint them in one go. Let me know if you want to see another painting video for the body of the tender, but ultimately it's pretty much going to be the same thing as the body for the engine, although I think there's going to be a lot less masking for this one. So obviously you saw in the instructions for next week, we got to add the buffer detail here, and then we'll be painting that red. We're masking that off and then painting the rest in blue. I believe the bottom side of this is going to be all black, so very little masking, which is good, and obviously some nice straight lines as well, as opposed to the nice curvature of the body, the main body. But I do think that's come out absolutely perfectly, but masking on this one is going to be so much easier. If you want to see that or anything else that goes on in the workshop, please do remember to hit the subscribe button and ding the bell for notifications. That way you won't miss out on future videos, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.